Okay, hey everybody, welcome to the webinar on Restock Pro for all the members of ACE and the Shawn Mayo Mastermind Group. We're going to go through and show you, all the ins and outs of how to do this. We have Todd, Ryan, and Dean here that use it quite a bit. It's not something that I use. My business is basically doing a lot of liquidation, so not a whole lot of use on restocking because I don't usually restock things. It's always new. But if it's something that you're doing, you're buying a lot of groceries or wholesale or anything replenishable, Restock Pro is definitely a tool you might want to look into. Todd?
Okay. Hi, everybody. And Dean, as I'm going through, if I'm missing something or you want to throw something in, feel free to interject.
Sure,
there.
no problem.
I'm going to share out my desktop here, see if this works. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, so this is the dashboard that really the first screen you'll see when you sign in the Restock Pro. It's a lot of information on here. Restock Pro, most of their screens are a little busy, so it takes some getting used to. But I'll walk through the basic elements of the dashboard, and then we'll get into really how it works. For those of you not familiar with Restock Pro, essentially it is an analytical engine that monitors sales of listings that you have on Amazon, monitors the buy box, the number of sellers, and what they call sales velocity, which is basically the rate that it sells over a 30-day, 60-day, or 90-day period, or rolling 7-day. It also keeps track of your local inventory and your inventory in flight, and it pulls all that together and basically gives you a single screen where it says, here's your expected margin on this unit. Here's how many units you need to send in to meet your goal for in-stock days. And, it accounts for lead times and local inventory and everything. So it's a fantastic tool if you have replenishables or if you order from a wholesaler or you have a lot of items that you can get over and over and over. If you're doing really retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, arbitrage in general, it will work for if it's an item that you can go get more of. If you're doing a lot of liquidations like Shawn does, probably doesn't make a lot of sense for you because you're kind of a one and a done. You buy all they have, you sell it, and then it's gone. So that's in a nutshell what Restock Pro does. On the dashboard, it shows you your total number of active SKUs you have with quantity on hand. And this is live data, by the way, so this isn't a canned demo. So 152 SKUs at Amazon, FBA, obviously, with active quantity on hand, which is QOH. The value, which is based on cost. And that's a little inaccurate. This is my data, by the way. This is a little inaccurate for me because I don't put cost on everything. The items that I know that I get for a super cheap price, and I know I have margin in, I don't bother to do the data update. It's just too tedious, so that's a little low. Open alerts that's the value of the items that require restock. So if you go out and order everything, ship it in that they're saying you need to restock, that's the value. This is the value of items that have been on alert for more than 7 days. So each day it will show you what you need to restock if there's anything to restock. On order here is the number and the value of orders that you have open to suppliers. For Restock Pro terminology, for orders are actually orders that you place with your suppliers, not Amazon orders. It's kind of confusing terminology, but they're referring to things that you're buying and sending in. Local to ship is the number of items you have in your local inventory that they're recommending to ship. And then FBA shipments is the value that's on your order list. Now that they go in sync with your Amazon FBA shipments. So if you go to your Seller Central and go to inventory FBA shipments, they sync with that data also. So they keep track of what I call in-flight quantities, things that you've already shipped, as well as things that you have locally and things that you have on order. So that's the basic color-coded tabs up here. Your sales activity summary, it just shows the number of units that you've sold in the past 7 days and how many SKUs that corresponds to. It goes through your top 20 selling items, and that's a rolling 30 days, I believe. along with their velocity numbers, which they don't have a hover tipped on this, but basically that's their velocity for the rolling 30 days and their sales velocity for the rolling 90 days. And then the total inventory, which is, your quantity on hand times costs. And as you can see, I don't have costs in several of these, as I mentioned, so that's not showing up. Let me go to the option screens first.
Wait, Todd, can you scroll down to recent restock alerts?
Yep.
Because I actually started using that quite a bit recently.
Okay.
So these are items that actually recently ended up in your pending, shipments. So I find that I use these quite a bit to reorder wholesale because they're not necessarily unexpected, but they may not show up in the data that I might have been looking at earlier, like the previous day.
I got you. So this is like late breaking information.
Well, plus I do exports in a CSV file. And when you do when you go to replenishment, I'll show you that. But these come up usually after I've exported my file and done the work on it.
Okay.
Okay. So it's good. Right. It's good to know about that.
Yep. Okay. And for those of you that don't know Dean, that's joining us on the webinar, Dean was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was historically primarily a seller fulfilled, manufacturer fulfilled seller, almost zero FBA.
Yeah, for many years.
And recently just started transitioning to FBA, has thousands of SKUs in stock, way more volume than I do. But he's been one of the big advocates of Restock Pro. It's really done a lot for his business. So that's kind of where Dean's coming from. Manages a ton more SKUs and has a much bigger warehouse. So has a lot more intricacies to manage.
Yeah.
Under options, you have locations, and this is where you set up your warehouse, your mailing address. If you have multiple warehouses, multiple stock points, these are not Amazon warehouses. These are warehouses that you control, and these are set up so that you can reference where you have inventory, so you know where to pull it from. My store is kind of deceptive. It has really most of the configuration settings that are important. It's buried under my store. But some of the numbers that the calculations are built on are your target quantity on hand days. And what those are is that's what you're saying, hey, I want to have at least this many of days worth of stock on hand. And that's going to be personal for each person. I keep mine at a minimum of 60, maximum of 90. So I like to have between 2 and 3 months of sellable stock at Amazon at the warehouse at any one time. So that's what they base their calculations on. Case pack, if you order wholesale, a lot of times you're going to run into case packs, which basically says, if you're going to order a widget, they only sell it in a case of 12. You can't just order 7 or 14. It has to be multiples of 12. So this, you're just telling it, if I'm hitting it not at a case pack, go ahead and round up to a case pack. These are the numbers that I end up tweaking the most, and really it's going to depend based on your product mix. Probably good to start off with the default. This is kind of what I've arrived at after 6 or 7 months of using it. But you have velocity estimation rule, and velocity again is the sales velocity. That's the number that they calculate that tells you how fast it's selling and how many you need. So you can go with average, minimum, maximum, or rolling 7, 30, or 90 days velocity. So fairly self-explanatory. Average is your average velocity over really your entire membership with Restock Pro. So basically the lifespan of the product. Minimum is the slowest it's ever sold. Maximum is the fastest it's ever sold. These two would come in play if you have seasonal items. Like if I had a lot of Halloween items, I would probably set this to max for the Halloween items coming up for the next 2 or 3 weeks, because you want to try to hit your sales for last year for Halloween items, and then you can back that down later. And then obviously rolling 7, 30, 90 day. I started out with it lower when I first started, because this is one of the systems that the longer you use it, the better information you get out of it.
Yes.
So set it for 7, then up to 30, up to 90. Now I'm at an average velocity estimation rule. And what that allows you to do is you can weight how it treats each of the sales velocities. So my roll the past 2 days worth of sales, I weight that at 30%. The past week is 20, the past 30 is 20, and the past 90 is 30. And that's kind of a number I've arrived at based on the mix I use. Obviously, it'd be different for others. Do you use 90-day or?
I've gone back and forth. I got burned on 90 days because I ended up sending something in. Somebody undercut me, and it was significant, and I ended up with 1,000 units. Just sitting there for a little while. And now I'm starting to sell, but I had to price it down, and so I'm about 60 right now, and then I'm building up a little bit for the holidays.
Okay. This is kind of like a repricer where, again, you're just going to have to tweak it based on your business. Adjust velocity for out of stock. I'll go ahead and do the hover tip on that. Essentially, and this isn't perfect yet. I've noticed it doesn't really always get the numbers right. But what it's supposed to do is, say you go out of stock on an item, it's supposed to calculate what your sales would have been based on buy box price and sales rank during that time frame. So you can get a really better idea of what you need in stock. So if I want a minimum of 60 days and I sell out in 45 days, it uses this to say, okay, what we predicted for the 60 days fell short. So we're predicting you need what we know about your 45 days and what we think would have sold during the 15 days. Again, it's not perfect. This is these analysis or something that large companies, billion-dollar retailers struggle with. So it's not an exact science, but it does a pretty good job. It's certainly way more accurate than Amazon Selling Coach. If you look at that, it'll have you send thousands of everything in because they're very optimistic on what they think you would have sold in Seller Central. You have any comments on this screen, Dean?
No, not on this one, no.
Okay. Calculation settings. This is on the screen. When I go to restock suggestions, you'll see this, but there's an estimated margin basis. And what that says is based on what they know about your cost and what they know about the Amazon buy box price, here's what we think you would make on this item. And that's important because I set my repricer to be the low price is the minimum I'm willing to accept the profit for that. And obviously the high is a high. So if it is not selling at a decent price, my repricer won't drop it to the floor. So this is kind of a safeguard to make sure that, if you're selling at a loss, you don't just keep replenishing it. You kind of notice there's an issue. But this is just where you can set the priority. I have mine set to whatever the current buy box price is. So basically it says for this item, here's the current buy box, here's what your margin would be. If it cannot retrieve that for whatever reason, I go with my average sell price for the past 7 days and then the listing price for third. You can either use, and this is important if you source from a lot of different places or kind of buy on deals, you can have it either use your current supplier cost, which you maintain, or the average cost from the POs. So if the price fluctuates, it can use a really dollar cost averaging approach on this. And by the way, I've got the chat up in another monitor, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them out there, and we'll get to them. And then total inventory value calculation. I don't use this a lot, but it will kind of tell you what the value of your inventory is, both quantity on hand, which is Amazon, inbound, which is the in-flight, your local inventory on the order, etc. And again, you can use either supplier costs or listing costs for that. You good on that one, Dean?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me skip down to suppliers because that ties back to products.
Yeah.
Basically, and I'll show you what it looks like. Basically, when you have a supplier, like say you're going to start buying from Kmart, for instance. You go in here and you just enter your supplier name. It requires an address. So you can either make up one or retrieve the address. We'll do the 1234 Anywhere Street. City, we'll go with Tampa, Florida. I don't source in Micronesia, that would probably be a challenge, but let's go with Florida. United States, zip code, etc. This stuff seems kind of dumb, but what this is used for is the PO it generates. So it looks like you have an official PO. It looks fancy when you send it to the supplier. You also can upload your logo, which I changed just for this demo, but you can add your logo and it will show up on your screen as well. These are all optional: phone number, contact name, email, etc. But it's good if you want to use this as kind of a reference tool. Order method, phone, fax, email. MAP, this isn't used anywhere as far as I know in Restock Pro currently, but it's basically to indicate if the vendor requires a minimum advertised pricing schedule. So other than just for your records, I don't know what value this serves currently. Maybe they have plans for it. Notes, self-explanatory. This is important, lead time days. If and Kmart's a good example. Even if you do retail arbitrage and you know, hey, there's a Kmart 5 minutes from my house, so I can go get more stuff the same day, then you can put a lead time day of 1. If you order wholesale and it takes them 14 days to ship it to you, then your lead time is 14. This is very important because when it calculates how much to send, it takes into account the lead time days, so that, if you want 60 days, it will have you order 60 days worth plus the 14, account for the 14 lead time days to get the product to you, as well as giving you kind of a heads up warning on when to order based on the lead time. This you'll recognize from another screen because it's configurable by supplier. So if you want to keep, maybe you have a hot selling item or a slow selling item even. If this is like a very slow selling item and you want to keep maybe 30 days on hand, or if it's something that you can run down and get to store in one day, you can say, hey, let me save some money in my inventory and I'll just keep 14 days on hand. So you can tweak this for each supplier. It doesn't have to be overall for the store. Same with the maximum. Same with case pack. Here's the velocity estimation rule. This is where I mentioned about seasonal. If this was spooky, scary Halloween World store, again, I would change this to max because I'd want to, stock for what I did last year or what I think, once sales start picking up, I want to make sure I maximize my inventory for this.
Todd, do you know how far back that goes?
I have never got a definite question from them. I've heard either since inception, so when my account started,
Got it.
and I've also heard what would 5 months be, 150 days.
Okay.
I think it's as far back as I started because all that data is in there, so I wouldn't know why they wouldn't use it, but I can't get an official response on it yet.
Okay.
And again, the same screen that you saw a while ago, you can actually do an average that's weighted. This, if for, I guess, an advanced user, sometimes you have a product that sets and all of a sudden it takes off like wildfire. Like I have a product that drops these comical YouTube infomercials every now and then, and whenever those hit, it just goes bonkers on sales. So when that hits, you can say, okay, sales are really skyrocketing. Let me weight my past 2 days sales as 98. So it puts an emphasis on how you've done the past 2 days versus how you've done over the 90 days. Free freight minimum, that's just for record keeping. This will show up on the PO. So if it's, net 30 or, payable on demand or whatever, you can include that here. Same with PO notes. If you want anything to go on your PO, like please call before delivery or that type of thing, you can generate a really professional looking PO with this. So it gives you a little flexibility there. Let's see. And then products. This is really the heart of the system for products. Let me skip to something that's a little bit interesting. One of the items that I sell, and I don't mind disclosing it because they won't accept any new resellers, and it's hazmat, so no big deal on me disclosing that, is poopery. That's one of the ones that takes a big surge whenever there's a YouTube video. So poopery is my supplier. Here are all the items that I have either stocked at some point or currently stocking with poopery. One of the things that, a couple things on the screen. I'll pull up one of the products. We'll do this one. When you pull it up, it will show you, and there's two ways you can do this. You can either manually add the product before you even list on Amazon, or you can do what I do. I just go ahead and add the product, ship it, and once Restock Pro sees it added as a product in your inventory, it will go ahead and pull it in here, and there's a screen on the little nag on the dashboard I'll show you that says, hey, you need to give some more information on this. But basically, it pulls in the text from the listing, your seller SKU, a picture of it, is active. Now, what the active is, if there's something you can't sell anymore or you don't want to restock, you can't find it, you can click that off and it will ignore it for your restocking. So it keeps it from cluttering up your screen. Most of this is self-explanatory. It's optional. I have a feeling Dean uses a location number quite a bit.
I actually haven't started using that, but I'm going to be.
Okay. That's for people like Dean that have a big boy warehouse and there's multiple locations and racks and bins and stuff. And I won't belabor this too much because it's mostly self-explanatory. This is pretty handy. I use this quite a bit. And I don't know if they're going to pull in Amazon prep instructions at some point. I've never seen this populated.
That's cool.
Yeah, but supposedly this is where they would say, shrink wrap or bubble wrap required, merchant sticker, etc. But I have prep notes in here. What I use it for is because I'm constantly forgetting what type of poly bag I use. So I'll just key in here, 4x6 self seal or, just poly bag. So when I go to restock it, I know what to check for to make sure I have the materials in stock to do the prep when it comes in. That's handy. And this is just a link to download the Amazon prep guide, which basically shows you, glass must be bubble wrapped, about using the shrinkable plastic neck seals, that type of thing. So that's the prep notes. Supplier alias, that's where you choose, when I showed you defining supplier a while ago, this is where you choose that supplier name. The supplier SKU, which is helpful for the PO. So whatever the supplier calls it, if you key that in here, when it generates the PO, you can send it straight to them. Cost, this is your cost. Now, it's not the fully loaded cost, which I get to down here. That's your actual cost from the manufacturer. Again, case pack quantity, minimum order quantity, adjust for out of stock. That's that same rule on the previous screen. You can customize it here. So if you don't want Restock Pro to calculate this as if it was always in stock, you can turn that off. Inbound shipping fee, reshipping fee, repackaging, and labor fee. This is where you put the rest of your costs for your fully loaded cost. I use the inbound shipping fee because for hazmat, you don't get the Amazon carrier rates. So that's where I use it to keep track of, what it costs me per item sending in, just so I have a general idea. Reshipping fee, I would use for, and you can use this for your price from the vendor if you'd rather. Same with reshipping fee. They're kind of interchangeable. So if you don't do, your own shipping or hazmat, then this can be the shipping from the supplier, and this can be your shipping cost to get to Amazon if you want to get that detailed, because it will account for all this in your profit. Repackaging material fee, if you're, as granular as saying, hey, each of those poly bags cost me, 0.01 cents, you can calculate that. And then, of course, labor. A lot of people have full-time employees. If you have them do the repackaging or whatever, you can put that in there. And then tags. Do you use tags, anything?
Haven't used tags at all.
Okay. In theory, you can use tags to further delineate things within Supplier. And so the use case scenario I can see this potentially being used for is Halloween or Christmas, or just something where you wanted to say, okay, we're coming up on Mother's Day. Let me look for all my products that are related to Mother's Day. And you can pull those up. So,
well, I could tell you one area where I might be able to use this.
Yep.
You could actually, like, we get your wholesaler, some stuff is carded where we just put a sticker on, and some has to be prepped. So I could use carded or prepped as a tag to separate the stuff as it comes in. Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. And I think that was their intention, is to use this for whatever they didn't think of, kind of give you some flexibility. Kits is a new feature that they just added, which I was very excited for because I use quite a bit. And here's the scenario. One of the poopery items I sell is a 3-piece. So it's a 1 ounce, 2 ounce, and 4 ounce bottle. The supplier doesn't sell it that way. They're individual pieces. And the problem I always had before is when Restock Pro would run, they would say, hey, you need to order 50 of these 3-piece kits. Well, then I had to go look and say, okay, well, I need more 1 ounces. I got plenty of 2 ounces. I had to do all the calculations on my own. With this, it will go in and tell you, hey, you need to order the quantity of each item. And when it generates the PO, it will reference each of the items on there rather than your bundle, which is a huge time saver. And it's real simple to set up. All you do is you say this is a kit, and then it just prompts you to pick which pieces go in that kit. So, and it's smart enough to know that, well, it could be smart enough to know this could be a detriment for some of the more creative bundlers, which I'm not. But by default, it picks the same supplier. I don't know if you can even add items from, I'm guessing you can't because that'd be a wreck for a PO. So if you do bundles from multiple suppliers, then I think you're up a creek probably because it doesn't have that functionality.
Yeah.
But if you're doing multiples from one supplier, then you basically go in and say, okay, this kit is 1 of these and 3 of these and 5 of these. And when it goes and tells you what you need to reorder, it will count for each of those pieces. History. This shows you basically the history of the product. What you paid in general for the parts, the shipping that you paid. Some of the screens actually shows the order history. I'm not sure. Let me go out and come back in. Maybe it's because I was tinkering with the kits piece. There we go. Okay, so it will show you the dates that you've ordered it, what you called the order name, the supplier, how many you ordered, how many you received, the cost. If you had any discounts on the PO, it reflect those here, shipping, etc. So it kind of shows you, your order history for the life of your account, essentially, for each individual SKU, which is kind of cool. Sometimes I go in and I can't remember when I ordered something last or, that type of thing. You'll also notice that when you define something that's part of a kit, it puts a little part designation on here. No real benefit other than just to tell you which ones are part of a kit. Tells you when they were added. So that's the date added is when Restock Pro first saw them. I started Restock Pro on 12/30, so nothing will be older than that. And then the last update, that just kind of tells you when they've last pulled your inventory from Amazon. And obviously there's a notes field again. This is active is actually clickable, which is very handy. So I can go in by supplier and go, you know what, I don't carry that anymore. I don't carry that. I don't carry that. And you just click it. There's a lot more values you can display on the screen. You just click on the gear and you can select them, FN SKU, supplier SKU, location number. If you like Dean have a big warehouse, you can click on that and kind of sort by location to see what you have. All these variables basically. CSV option, that's handy because if you don't want to do the updates through the GUI, it can be slow and tedious. You can download them and then fill them out in a spreadsheet, copy and paste, and then re-upload that spreadsheet, which I know Dean's done that a lot.
Yes, we've done that a lot. We've done that for our seller cost. We've done it for our manufacturer part number, the supplier name. But you got to remember to set the suppliers up before you update this.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I went. I'm glad you reminded me. That's why I went into suppliers first because that's bit me a few times. Where,
yep, me too.
And it will happily. I believe it creates a supplier if you don't already have it. If you put it in a spreadsheet, is that
I don't know. I haven't tried that, but okay. I do know that I didn't have one set up, and I remember that being an issue.
Yeah, there's definitely an order here to do it.
Right.
I have not played with the Get Prep Guide template. I don't know if that's something that
I haven't tried that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that does, but again, CSV options. Same with the filtering options. If you want to see the ones you marked inactive, kits, etc. So this is all the foundation that you're laying to get to the good stuff, which is the restock suggestions. And this screen has a default filter that you can apply, which I've already done, just kind of limited data. So basically on my filter, and this is all selectable through these screens. So you can select by specific supplier name. It'll have your entire list of suppliers. You can select by categories, which is kind of cool. Of course, that's only as good as the Amazon catalog. And, we all know that you'll find cereal in, the lawn and garden section and, lawnmowers and groceries. So that's kind of with a grain of salt. SKU, you can filter on, if you use like I use supplier name sometimes at the beginning of my SKU. So if I didn't want to filter by supplier, I could put that in the SKU. But here's where your tags come in that you can enter. You can select whether or not it's sold by Amazon. So sometimes when I go in, like Poopery's one that Amazon's on a lot of the listings. So sometimes when I go in, I'll say, okay, show me everything that's not sold by Amazon. If I don't want to mess with, competing with them when I do the restocking. Cost and price, as you can see, I already have, we got one filter in here where I'm saying, and Shawn's going to giggle at my margins, but basically I'm saying anything where my margin's 99 cents or more.
Your margins are ridiculous.
Yeah. I lowered it for this webinar. I'm usually way up in the $2 or $3 range. I don't think Shawn will touch anything for less than $10, but
that's pretty
the life of a wholesaler. So for this demo, I put greater than 99 cents margin. And you can see, I won't make it tedious, but there's a ton of things you can use to kind of narrow down to what you want to see.
And if I'm not mistaken, you can do this filter, and then you can combine it with all items that are sales rank 100,000 or less too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
It stacks. That's kind of what I've done here. So it as you build it, it stacks, and you can save it and either name it or make it your default filter.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, Dean. Like and under sales, you can do it by your sales and velocity.
Yeah.
You can do it by where's the one? Whether or not a restock is needed, which is the same as doing quantity greater than 0.
Right. You can say, if you need anything more than 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because even though you might have an alert, it doesn't necessarily say you're out of stock, or you don't know how bad it is that you're out of stock. That kind of stuff.
Exactly. And they just added the restock needed a couple of releases ago, which this is kind of a carryover for me. This is how I used to do it.
Okay.
And so once you build all your filters, here's your screen. And I've got a filter by one supplier. But if you have multiple suppliers, once you start to do a restock order, it will filter everything else out because it works on a PO basis. So they don't want you picking, 1 from Kmart and 3 from Walmart, that type of thing. And don't get hung up on it being a PO. I've talked to a couple of users that use it as a shopping list or a pick list.
Yep. Yeah, and you can export it too.
Yeah, you can export to a tablet or a CSV or all that. So one of the other big users, she prints it out for her helpers, her employees, and then sends them to the store with them. And not only does it tell them what price they should be paying and what store and what items specifically, including the UPC, but it also tells them how many to buy. So it's a great resource if you have shoppers. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. So here's the information. This tells you, it's a priority alert, which I believe means greater than 7 days.
Yes.
Okay. The date it went out of stock. And a lot of these, I compete with 2 other sellers in Amazon on here. So some of these I kind of let ride for a while before I reorder because the other sellers are ginormous. So they'll send in a couple of thousand at a time. But obviously the basic information, the SKU, the name, the ASIN, these are all clickable. So you can click on this and it will go to your Seller Central account for your actual inventory. This will go to the actual listing. This will go to the actual product, which is the same screen we're just looking at under products. It's not editable, so all I can do is look at it, but you can at least look on it and see, the information. Supplier alias, that's just your supplier name, and if you have the SKU in here, obviously in your cost. Here's where the important numbers happen. So sold by, there will be an Amazon flag in there if Amazon is selling it, and all these are filtered out, but there'll be like a little Amazon logo. The new buy box price. So this is the current buy box price for each of these items. And when I say current, it's not real time. It's usually within, I think, about 20 or 30 minutes, I believe. Here's the number of FBA sellers. The lowest, let me scroll down to here because a lot of these they don't make anymore. This one, there's 4 FBA sellers. The lowest FBA seller is currently $29.85. There's no non-FBA sellers, and then the lowest non-FBA. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of what's going on the listing. The amount of sales in 2 days, the amount of sales in 6 days, velocity, the amount in 30 days, and the amount in 90 days. And then here's your estimated margin. So it's saying that based on this cost, this buy box, all Amazon fees, prep fees, everything else you put in, this is what we think you would make per sale.
Right.
So that comes in handy for, the part-time sellers like me that, if you have, well, I guess big-time sellers too, if you have limited income, then obviously you want to buy as many of these 770s as you can and let these 254s wait. So you can sort on this. So that's a real good way to narrow down if you have limited funds. And then there's go ahead.
Yeah, Todd. So the margin is based on your primary setting, though, the buy box price, which is maybe not what you're selling it for. Is that correct?
That is based on you can configure it multiple ways. I have it currently set to be based on the buy box price.
Right. And I have it set that way too. And what ends up happening is a lot of the other sellers might be coming in significantly, maybe $1 or $2 less on a $12 item, because they're doing the price plus shipping, which comes in a little less than me.
Yes.
So you just have to be aware of those margins.
Yes, yeah, and that's why it's good that they hyperlink right to the listing. Sometimes if something looks fishy, I'll just click on it and go see, because
me too.
And it's not real time again, so obviously do due diligence on it. But it gives you margins and your markup percentage. This tells you, and here I'll click on the calculator too. This shows you where it gets the numbers, which I think is pretty cool. So it shows you. Oops, sorry about that. Quantity on hand. Let me pick one where I have something there. Be a little more exciting.
Yeah, this is the fun part of the program too. There's like 20 different calculations it uses.
Yep.
To
and it breaks
tell you
all
how
up.
much. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it, like it's saying, I have 12 there currently. None are inbound. None are in process. 2 are reserved. 2 are pending. This is a hazmat item, and one of the bad things about hazmat is Amazon is notorious for holding them in pending status for months. So that's why the pending shows up. So this is showing you how it calculates what your available inventory is. So obviously it's going to say there's 12 there, 2 are reserved and 2 are pending. So effectively you have 10. Velocity, this is based on the weightings that I did in the percentages. So that's a 0.37 velocity, and I don't know what that number means, but that's the number they're using, I guess. So that's how they calculate that I have basically 32 days of stock remaining. Based on me wanting to have 90 days and a 10-day supplier lead time, means that to account for that 10 days, they're going to shoot for 100 days of stock, and that's where the lead time factor comes in. If I put 1 here, this would be 91. Minus how many they think is remaining, and adjusted by the velocity, and that gets to how many you need to reorder from the supplier right here. If I had local inventory, it would account for that. So if I had 20 in inventory, it would say, hey, you only need 6 here. It also accounts for things I've already ordered. So if I got some on back order, I just ordered some a week ago and I forgot, it'll say, hey, you've already got 20 on the order and 20 in inventory, so you don't need any. These are sold individually, so I don't have any case back roundups, but that's where that would kick in. So if this number was 12, it would say you need 26. So 12 times 3 is 36. If I had roundups, it would say 36 there. Suggested ship quantity would be from local stock, and then reorder quantities, what's going to go on the PO, basically. And then here's how they calculate the margin, basically. Average sell price, buy box, listing price, and these are the 3 options that you have, basically, for your margin. So as Dean said, they can either key off the new buy box price or whatever you sold it for over rolling 7 days. Same with costs. Here's where all the other costs came in that we mentioned, we talked about already, which is why I showed you the screen first, so it kind of make more sense. Amazon fees, so here's the ones we're all used to: FBA, commission, etc. Margin, cost, markup. So they basically like it used to say in school, they show your work so you can see where they get the numbers from, essentially. The color-coded key shows you, these are the things that are either at Amazon or Amazon data. These are, it says your store. What that's basically telling you is these are the factors that are configured under options, my store. So, or on each product. So these are the shipping fees, your lead time, inventory, that type of thing. Supplier, that's all the variables that are based on the supplier. And then there's an exclamation point that just says basically it includes out of stock. Let's see, here's a note that says out of stock periods are tracked as of 1/12/15. So there we go, Dean. So it tracks out of stock and data basically back to 1/12/15. It looks like, at least for this piece. So and it shows you where these preferences come from if you need to change it. So that's what's in the calculator.
I'm gonna mention one thing on the reserved.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but reserved, as everybody knows, is a combination of pending orders plus what is being transferred between the different facilities.
Yep.
Now, for larger volume sellers, like for us, we're selling to Kentucky. Okay, if we have a large number of units, and then they redistribute.
Yep.
So what I'm finding is things go into reserve, and I don't know about you, but it seems like they're not getting calculated properly. It seems like they're held up. So it's like telling me to send more, and then when they actually get to the proper DCs, that I've probably sent it a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I've noticed that, and I got those reversed early. My apologies. Pending are the pending sales. Reserved are the ones that Amazon's holding for whatever reason.
Right.
It doesn't seem to pick up on
the transfers.
Yeah, and I don't know if because Amazon doesn't show it, or if they're just not pulling it right, or what the deal is.
Well, when you're in Amazon FBA inventory, it doesn't split those two up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think it shows up on there's a report, I believe, where you can pull it. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they're pulling in pending somehow. So that's.
Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I have seen some variances in that. And it's probably much worse the higher volume that you do, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the more volume you do, I think I have to change my settings a little bit because I feel like I need to add a lead time so that for the approximate number of items or different SKUs that I send to Kentucky.
Yep.
I need to add a lead time so it gets to the DC because a certain percentage of that is not available to the Prime users. You can still sell it.
I got you. Yes.
It's in reserve. You can still sell it, but you can't sell it to a Prime user. And
yes.
There's 40 million people that can't see the item.
Yes. Yes, you're right. And that's another good point too, is when you first start using this, it's good to sanity check because if you haven't used the software before, you're kind of intuitively or with spreadsheets doing this work already. So when I first started using it, it would say, hey, you need to reorder 78 of these or 4 of these or whatever. And I would look at it and I would say, no, that's, that is not right. That needs to be higher, that needs to be lower. And then I would go back to my rules and tweak my rules until it came closer to what I was expecting.
Yep, that's right.
So that's a good sanity check.
And I actually use velocity in the dashboard too.
Oh, for restocking calculation?
Yeah. I actually have you could add the column. And I could actually calculate in my head based on the velocity number how much I need.
Oh, nice. Okay. That is cool. This looks like the Google Maps, you are here thing. If you click on this, it shows you if you have things on order or in flight. It will show you, like here's your supplier. It will show you if you have some on order. It will show you how many you have local. How many are in flight to Amazon. When you do the PO, it asks you if you want to have them shipped directly to Amazon or to you, depending on how you do it. So it will show direct ship, and then it breaks down the on-hand and process, unfulfillable, pending. So if you ever look at these numbers and say, well, wait a minute, where is it getting this for reserved or this, how many it thinks I have, that breaks it down. Then the last 2 columns, suggested ship. Obviously, that tells you how many you need to ship from your local inventory, how many you need to order from the supplier, how many are on the order, the restock need, etc. So real quick, you can either take their recommendation, which again, you can click on this calculator and see where they're getting that at, or if you want to override, you can override it. But you basically say, okay, I want to order more of this. So when you first click the button, it prompts you. So you can name it. I always use the date. You go have them shipped direct to Amazon to your warehouse. So if you pick your warehouse, you'll pick which one of those warehouses, and then it creates the order. That gets the PO process started, and again returns you to the screen with just that supplier. So that's when you can go in and say, okay, I want to order this too, but not 36. You're crazy. That needs to be 48. Order this. Order this. If they're suggested ship from your local quantity, you can also build a pick list with this. So the items that you need to ship from your inventory. Dean, you probably do that a lot. So
yeah, I do.
Okay. It will just build a pick list with the information you need to go pull it from your inventory also. And I don't have any local inventory in this, so it won't show up. So say that's my order. That's what I'm going to order. Up here it says next action, create PO. Click on the create PO, and it will preview the PO. And again, it would have, I think it has your logo here typically. But here's a vendor, here's a ship to, all that stuff I showed you on the screen, payment terms and notes. And it will have suppliers, like a PO basically. I mean, you need the entire thing, if there's a shipping fee, all that stuff. So you can either email the PO or download the PDF. I'll go ahead and download the PDF. A little quicker than doing the email. And then it creates a PO that looks exactly like that screen we just showed you, so I won't belabor that. At this point, it's considered an order. So if you go over to your order screen, which is one of the screens we didn't look at yet, this shows you all of the orders, and that's both orders that you've sent. So here's the one I just did. It's going to ship to my warehouse. The PO is sent. Once I start receiving the items, you can go ahead and click receive items and actually keep track of them. You can add items to the PO or regenerate another PO. You can edit it or you can email it to yourself. This also shows your Amazon shipments that are in process. So closed, they're receiving, requested, received, all the other stuff's here. So this is how it keeps track of what's in flight, basically. And you can see, like usual with Amazon, I've got some shipments from July 20th that never fully closed out. They're updated, but that's just how it goes. So once you start receiving the items, you click on receive items. And this is what it does. So you can put notes in here, internal notes, box was damaged, or short shipped, or whatever you want to do there. It's your notes. And you can click. You can either mark them all received, or you can indicate how many you received. So you can kind of keep a running total of what's in your local inventory. When you receive these items, it's receiving it into your local inventory. So the thought process is that once you've received it, you will have its local inventory. One thing with Restock Pro, they like to own the entire process. So it works best if you keep your local inventory in here, you do your PO through here, and you build your Amazon shipments through here. That's the most streamlined way of doing it.
Yeah, but if you're multi-channel, it doesn't work.
Right. Yes. Or if you build shipments with multiple suppliers, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it that way too. Like right. I use Inventory Lab.
Yeah.
So I don't use that functionality. It's not a big deal because all you have to do is, I'll go back to the orders. Since this is a bogus PO, there really is no delete functionality. All you do is archive it. So what the archive does is it just stops it right where it's at and moves it out, keeps it out of the system, and it never shows up. So once I receive it in here, I just use this to check off the receiving, and then I just archive it. If you wanted to ship from here, then there's the next thing, ship items from local would show up. So I actually had some items, and again, this is an exclusive I have, so I don't have any problem showing it, but you can click ship items from local once you've received everything, and it will pull up weight, received, all the stuff basically of this was a PO that I created and received. If there's any kits in it, there's a check parts available for kits that will check to make sure you have everything you need to build a kit. And this is where you can override the quantity. So if you want to ship everything, you click this button. If you want to ship like one of this one and two of that one or whatever, you can change that. And then you click on create FBA shipment, and that will go out and actually create the Amazon FBA shipment for you. So at which time you go over to Seller Central. So that is the entire process from Restock Pro standpoint. Let me go over to local inventory. Again, it's just the same view basically. It just shows you all your items. So if you have stuff in local inventory you want to ship that aren't a restock alert, you can go in here and build that from here. This is also where you would add new local inventory items. If you forgot to indicate that you had some in stock, you just go through here and pull up your SKU number and put the local quantity, and away you go. Go back to dashboard. I'll show you one other thing. This is the nag I was telling you about. You got 44 products that need to be linked to suppliers. Basically, what's saying is it found 44 products since I've last been in here that need to be linked to a supplier. So again, it's the same familiar screens. I was pulling up here. Basically, you click on it, and it pulls in what it knows from Amazon. So here's the description, the SKU, whether or not it's active, and it's saying, hey, at a minimum, tell me which supplier this is from and what it cost you. You can leave costs at 0, which I often do, but you obviously want to put under supplier alias so it will show up as a restock under that individual supplier. So that is it in a nutshell. It does support multiple users. Do you use multiple users, Dean?
I have 2 users right now.
Okay. What kind of functionality do you have as far as limiting?
Right now, I haven't done anything really for limitations.
Okay.
I didn't really feel there was a need because I'm not using every single feature on here.
Yeah.
Because we use other programs for a lot of the stuff, unfortunately.
And I guess really you can't change pricing in here. You can't change FBA inventory. You really can't do a lot of damage. All you can do, I guess, is create a PO.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's fairly benign. The reports is pretty interesting. Have you looked at the reports much?
I've definitely looked at them.
Okay. They have supplier performance, which I think is pretty cool. Let me click on Poopery. And it will show you, if you click on the individual supplier, it will show you all the SKUs for that supplier and basically your stats. So you can kind of look and see, margins or, velocity, that type of thing. It also shows you sales rank, which you can sort on, like Dean was mentioning before, so you can see the things that aren't selling anymore or the ones that are really selling very well. Restock need, and this I used recently with Amazon's long-term storage fees. This shows you how many of that stock have been there more than, I have 270 days.
Right.
You can go ahead and configure that to show your quantities that have been there less than 91 days between, all these numbers you guys can read. But basically, whatever you want to look at, you can click this button and then you can see it for that supplier. So that's a real good way to kind of know what you got to do for long-term storage, essentially. They also have, which I think is a little bit less useful, SKU monthly analysis. Basically, you pick a SKU, which we'll pick who, and it will show you for the past year the number of times you're in stock percent. So I was in stock 100%, through February, and then from March through July, and sold out, and you kind of see it up and down. Your sales when you're in stock, so units sold, and this one is one that Amazon's on. So you can see I was in stock with no sales. I don't know what happened here. When I was in stock again, I had a little bit of sales, and then it was just a run on it, and I sold out.
Yeah, because you don't know the competition at that point.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those where Amazon rarely goes out of stock on, so when they are out, it just blows through my inventory. I'll sell, like, as you can see, one or two here or there. So it kind of shows you that graph, and it shows you by the month what percent you're in stock, days in stock, and how many you sold. So they recently added those reports. They were, fairly useful. I don't use them a ton, but they do give you some information on your individual products. So let's see. Well, Dean, you did a great job. There was no questions in the chat, so I attribute that to your detailed overview. Anything else you want to cover?
I got a couple comments, nothing spectacular. On the dashboard where you're at right now, if you look at the alerts, there's also a quantity that is out of stock. And even with using this program, it's amazing how many units, I might be out of stock at a given time. We have about 3,100 units right now that we've created for FBA, and we're going to create another couple thousand. I got to get the work done. But yeah.
The 3,100 units, you mean 3,100 different SKUs?
3,100 SKUs.
Okay.
We have 17,000 units there right now, and we're going to ship about 2,000 this week. So we're going to get.
I've got about 3,000 SKUs myself.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So we have about 500 items that are out of stock right now, even with this program and even with the good system. So it's amazing what you're going to be out of stock on if you do replenishables and don't use this program.
Yeah. And one thing it shows I didn't cover that I hate seeing it, but it's useful. It will show you a negative restock number too. So
Yes.
if you send way too many in and sales just plummet, or whatever, and so
or you go too wide and you kind of just throw stuff out there to see what happens.
Yep, and it really aggravates me. I don't know why, but I filtered out just because it's just kind of like a monument to my failure of predicting, volume. But it will show you, hey, if you got 32 too many items there, knucklehead, they'll show you on the restock. So I've never pulled them back, but that's one of the things they show based on velocity.
The interesting thing I found is things that I barely sold MF, or because the ASPs were higher, and a lot of people started using FBA a few years ago, and now I'm selling more of those. Mm-hmm. But if you follow the velocity, okay, things that you thought were going to sell a couple a month could turn into some big numbers. I mean, I have one product. We sell beading supplies, okay, and it's a mat, and it's a sticky mat, so it holds the items in place. And we were selling 3 or 4 a month, and I'm setting in 100 this week.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really good margins too.
Better than 99 cents?
Yeah. It's probably $3-4. It's not anything huge.
Yeah. It's still $3 or $4 times 100. That's decent money.
Versus selling 6 in a month because you didn't think you were going to need them, right?
And warehousing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want me to show or click on here, Dean?
No, honestly, I can't think of anything. I think you did a great job of covering a lot of information in a short period of time.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. One of the things that I've been nagging them about real quick is they have a feature vote here that comes up periodically. And you can see that people are really screaming for analytics. What they do, the calculation they do is very simplistic. There's some other packages out there that do way more than this for way more than money. But this refund management, that's another hot topic that's coming up. As everybody knows, there's only one package I'm aware of, Refund Manager, that addresses that currently. That's something they're looking at doing. And from what I've heard, it's going to be fairly simplistic. But it's going to say, hey, basically, this is refunded. Did you get your refund? Was item returned? Kind of where that thing went, which a lot of people do that manually now, but that would be a nice thing to add as well.
Right. We also have a Facebook group. It's a very, very small group of users. It's called Restock Pro Questions and Answers. And we have one of the business analysts from Restock Pro, the owner of the company. He doesn't really chime in, but the business analyst does if we tag her. And they're very responsive, and they've done some changes to the program directly from the group that only has about 30 people in it.
Yep. And I'll send that link to Shawn after the webinar, Shawn, so you have it. Anything you want us to cover, Shawn, or any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. Okay. What? So after it tells you what to order and it tells you who to order from. You have to do that. I don't know if I missed it. This was ridiculously boring, but it's necessary for some people. But
right.
What happens? What's the? Will it contact somebody for you?
No.
And send an email?
No, it emails it directly to you, or you can download this PDF. So what you have to do then is the PDF I just pulled up on screen, you can either just attach that, or you can email it to yourself and forward it that way. But it does not do any of the ordering for you.
Yeah, and if you're an arbitrage buyer and you want to set it to filter for your Target shopping, you could actually do an export or put it on your tablet, and then just bring that with you so that you can go source what you're looking for.
Right. I know about that. I just didn't know, about that last step.
Right.
About doing the actual ordering, if
okay.
It's the way to do that.
No, it's all manual currently.
Okay. Well, I think that might be about it then.
Okay. So now you can be jealous of my margins and my restocking software.
Right. I'm so
okay. Yeah, I know. I don't see any questions in the chat, so your call, Shawn. We can call it.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We'll post the link to join the group if you want to join that group. And, you know, if you're an ACE member, you have a discount. You know, if you're a mastermind member, we have a 30-day trial, you know, which will be posted with all the other discounts. You know, and we're trying to get a discount as well, but they seem to claim that it doesn't exist. So, you know, we'll do what we can to get you a discount on that. And that's about it. What?